Hello, everyone. My name is Brett Leininger, and I am the Managing Director of Old Line Government Affairs. For this edition of Online with Old Line, we are very excited to have Delegate Mike Griffith here from representing District 35B, representing Cecil and Harford Counties in Maryland. Very near and dear to my heart. I'm a native Harford Countyan. I grew up in Bel Air and lived just over the line in Abingdon, went to Bel Air High School. So you represent my old stomping grounds. First, if you can, Delegate, tell us a little bit about yourself and then the district that you represent.
Sure. Well, I actually have a pretty unique story. I grew up I was actually a foster kid, growing up in Aberdeen. Uh, Went on to the Marine Corps, did serve 2 terms in the Marine Corps,
Thank you
where I
for
was
your
all,
service. Thank you for your
no,
service.
thank you for saying that. I appreciate that. Where I was a military policeman, so I have, a difficult childhood background, which I didn't think was difficult at the time, but you know, I find it helpful as a legislator now relating to some of the issues we deal with, certainly in my committee, um, uh, and also the law enforcement background. While as a military policeman in the Marine Corps, I've also found very helpful in the issues we deal with, and just continue to work my way through my career in business development. And a dad with a great family, 4 kids, 22, 12, 6 and 4,
Wow.
and just trying to you know be a good person and serve the community and be a good dad, most importantly. So
That's awesome. So I'm familiar with the district. I know it's changed a lot. Harford County used to be pretty rural, even Abingdon and Bel Air. I still think of 24 as the new 24, so I'm very much dating myself.
yeah.
But give the audience a sense of the district and maybe how it's changed. I know you've only been in office for a short period of time, but just if you can give them a sense of the makeup.
Sure. So my district specifically doesn't have any municipalities, which is pretty unique.
Hmm.
So I serve northern and central Harford County and western and central Cecil County. A great deal of rural area, farms, uh, local events, parades, festivals, things of that nature. Although we do have the suburbs to multiple municipalities, Bel Air, Havre de Grace, and certainly Aberdeen. Um, but our primary focus in this district is, uh, taking care of our farmers, land preservation, uh, and making sure that, and educating folks that, we grow the food that the rest of the state eats. But while also making sure we're focused on, economic development, creating good jobs for those folks who are not in the farming community, and striking that really great balance that we have.
Yeah, that's great. It is a reminder. Does that include Darlington by chance?
Yes, I got
Yeah.
Darlington Street, Jarrettsville, Corolla in Cecil County, Conowingo, Churchville. Again, it's a pretty sprawling district.
Yeah, it's beautiful out there for sure. So you referenced some of your background. What was the inspiration for deciding to be in public office?
I, so I think it really ties to, you know, and I know this sounds kind of, cliche, but, a desire to serve and a desire to be helpful to the community. And in no time have we seen that more than now.
Mhm.
Certainly with my time in the Marine Corps, volunteering for a lot of different nonprofits in the area, I've always had that hunger to be of service and to be useful. Um, but I couldn't imagine uh, this term, especially related to COVID, how true that could have been. Because you hear so much about, being a delegate, you're dealing with constituent concerns and you're, for a variety of issues. But we really, came into play in a really big way on unemployment issues, on food issues. I mean, people during COVID, they would lose their job before unemployment rolled in. We're trying to find food. We were connecting folks to food banks, trying to help people find resources to pay their bills, helping businesses reopen or navigate the emergency orders put in place. I mean, we did a summary, we helped over 2,600 individual constituents in 2020 in the delegate district, really, and almost all of them related to COVID. And it absolutely meant the world to me to have an opportunity to serve in this role. I mean, if you want this position, when else in history would you rather serve when you can actually use the position to help real people in a real way?
Yeah, that's really awesome. Just thinking about that reality and the absolute nexus that you played to help people navigate the bureaucracies. So very important and unprecedented times. I remember starting off lobbying and being in government affairs 2004, 2005, and up through the subsequent years. It felt like, wow, every other year we were having a special session. And I thought, wow, that must be a unique experience for legislators coming in. But you came in a spot where that shatters all. I mean, those were just single issues, and now you've got a totally different dynamic. And kudos to all of you who serve to deal with that and take care of things, and really appreciate that. So obviously we've talked about COVID in this virtual session, but can you share your experience in Annapolis, how it's been similar or different than what you expected? And give us an idea of what you've seen compared to what you thought you would see or experience.
Well, I mean, one thing I've definitely enjoyed is the fact that, you are able to build relationships across the aisle. As we all know, the overall majority of bills we work on are unanimous. It's really that 5 to 10% of partisan bills that really get the press and get the coverage, and they really get talked about. But and those bills, I'm certainly on the front of the line standing up for my constituents versus those bills. But there's also a lot of bills that I've had opportunities to work with folks across the aisle to help special needs folks, to help our military. And I was not necessarily expecting that, but I'm heartened that there are a lot of issues that we, in spite of, and I'm sure some of the battles we do down there on a variety of legislation, that there are also many issues that we're able to leave the floor fight on the floor, step off, and start working on the next thing. And that has certainly heartened me in this experience.
Yeah, that's really important, especially in light of what I believe Congress, where the state of Congress at the national level, seems like the action is at the states, and you do have a voice, even though you're in the minority party. I'm sure it gets tough at times, but I agree with you. I've learned that over the years too, coming from Bel Air and just not really knowing what to expect, but it has been heartening, especially this year, actually seeing the voting sessions because it was all virtual. Very enlightening. I've been down there for 18 years, and there's not that it was a chamber, right? And now we saw, and what I was most amazed by was the collegiality and the opportunity for everyone, and the chairs dictate that on down from the speaker and on the Senate side as well, but the chairs allowing for that robust conversation and everybody have an opportunity to speak their mind. So that was enlightening for me, and it's what you've said definitely resonates with me. Tell us about your biggest accomplishments. I mean, thus far in your short legislative career, it sounds like you've done a heck of a lot of constituent work. I'm sure that's rewarding, but what kind of sticks in your mind as things you're most proud of?
I mean, there's a few things. Certainly, most notably, my work in the police reform package. While I'm certainly not at all satisfied with where we're at, I know I was able to help steer some of the more concerning things from the legislation. That meant a great deal. Obviously, a lot of local stuff, being able to help our constituents during COVID on the business, with small businesses, restaurants, businesses that were deemed non-essential. I really led locally the fight on trying to get schools reopened. That was something certainly very important to my constituents, and I was able to rally a lot of folks around that issue. Last year, I was able to work with local business leaders and local elected officials, and was able to put together the only fireworks display over at Richmond Stadium on 4th of July in northeastern Maryland, which we're really proud of. And then obviously legislatively, I have a special needs son. I'm on the board of the ARC Northern Chesapeake, predating me being in the legislature. So special needs issues, I know a lot of special needs families, and so those issues are very important to me. So I was able to get a bill through this year that cross-filed with Senator Peters, HB 716, which would ensure that in-person IEP evaluations will be provided, whether or not we're in a state of emergency or not. It's one of the only piece of legislation passed to codify any type or to protect any type of in-person learning going into the next school year, which I think is going to be very important. And certainly some of our underserved special needs communities. And I'm very fortunate. I was awarded the ARC Maryland Legislator of the Year award for that legislation.
That. Congratulations.
Thank you. That meant absolutely the world to me. So legislatively, those are probably the biggest things that I've accomplished so far.
Yeah, and that's huge. I mean, that also speaks to the nature of its bipartisan effort. Senator Peters, Prince George's County Democrat. I mean, it just let's create good policy and address some real issues that are going on. I also noticed in your bio, one point you worked for the Boys and Girls Club of Edgewood back in '94. So that's near and dear to my heart. I was on the board for the Boys and Girls Club of Metro Baltimore in the city for 8 years, finishing off as 2 years as chair, and it was a labor of love. I mean, just the impact that we were able to make, and I'm sure you were able to see that in your tenure there.
Well, I was 17 years old.
Yeah,
it was the very first Boys and Girls Club summer camp in Edgewood, and I had the opportunity to be one of the original camp counselors there, and we had an absolute blast. So those something near and dear to my heart as well.
That's great. So what policy initiatives do you have for the future? What are you thinking about? What's on mind for the session, or just kind of longer term?
So I certainly want to continue to see what we can do to improve the police reform bills. I think there are things that were left in there that needs to, certainly some needs to be addressed in a variety of ways. So that's very concerning for me. I want to continue to push and advocate for our special needs community. So I'm working on legislation around that. I want to continue additional legislation to make sure, kids going into college are fully aware of the impacts and the student loans they're taking out and how it's going to impact them. So education on taking out student loans. I think we're avoiding the conversation of taking on student debt versus now you have it, how do we get rid of it? So I think that an education piece on the front end, I think is certainly very valuable. And then locally, just trying to make sure we're propping up our community with, access to parks, obviously protecting, our agricultural community, and, continuing to support our law enforcement.
Yeah, I mean, those are all just issues, right? They're not bipartisan. I mean, they're not partisan issues. They're just the stuff that needs to get done. That's awesome. And I can hear it in the passion with which you discuss it. And that's awesome. It just comes out for sure. All right. So to wrap things up, what's one unique thing or a fun fact about yourself you'd like to share with us?
Sure. So I know you asked for a picture. I sent a picture over of my daughter with a giant stuffed animal. I'm not sure if you guys got that in time. I am, for whatever reason, we all have silly talents. I am really good at ring toss and skee ball at amusement parks. And, I can hit, 400 or 500 skee ball on a regular basis. Every time I go to Hershey Park, I buy a bucket of rings. And with one bucket, I hit the 2 giant stuffed animal max. And my wife always gets frustrated. She always tells me, stop. We have too many. So what I do now is I'll win two, and I'll give one to one of my kids, and I'll give one to another kid. Because you can look around at the park and see like which kid didn't win something or whatever the case may be. And so I'm like, okay. And I just walk up to a random person with a giant stuffed animal, and it takes about a good minute for them to figure out what's happening and walk away. And I always do it. And this is the other lesson. I've always learned to do it right before I leave, so I'm not stuck carrying around a giant stuffed animal. For whatever reason, every time I go, I can win two with one bucket. So who knows?
That's amazing. That reminds me of the movie The Jerk, when Steve Martin was doing weight guessing. He's like, "Oh, I see, the profit deal. They definitely lose money off of you when you come in and do the ring toss." That's really awesome, though. What a great fun fact. Well, Delegate Griffith, thank you so much for taking the time. We look forward to the opportunities to meet in person, to work with you in the upcoming session, and really appreciate you taking the time out to join us.
No, and I certainly appreciate you and the good work you do. And, sometimes lobbyists get a bad rap, but I find you incredibly valuable for me, because we're navigating so many issues, and it's impossible to be read in on 1,300 bills. So I appreciate the work you guys do to give me details and perspectives on different legislations. You guys play a really valuable role in what we do, and I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for the opportunity to speak with you today.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. I view us as brokers of information. It's probably the most fun about the job, because we get to learn so many things, and I'm sure that you get that satisfaction as well. So really awesome stuff. Well, for more conversations with legislators and more online with Old Line, please visit oldlinelobbying.com.